Good afternoon, Mr. Motha.
Good afternoon, DCJ.
How are you?
I'm in trepidation, but ready.
All right, well, that's good enough for us. Just speak a bit louder than you are at the moment. And
All right.
Yeah, that's much
Is that
better.
better?
You're a holder of a BA and BA Law and LLB degrees, which you obtained from VETS,
Precisely.
and you've had a checkered career. You started out as well. You did articles, but then did not join the sidebar. You decided to teach. Is that so?
No.
Well, that's the impression I get from your application form. It says you did articles between 93 to 95, and then in 95 you taught at Vista University.
Oh, yes. I had finished my articles at that stage. And then I got an opportunity to teach at Vista University. Then I took the opportunity.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I had finished my articles at that stage and got an opportunity to teach at Vista University, and I grabbed hold of the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you taught, where was this, at Vista University?
I've always been a Sowetan, so it was in Soweto. I'm a Sowetan at heart.
Yes.
Yes.
And you taught for how many years? 5 years?
It was quite some time. I can't remember very well, but it must have been 4 to 5 years until when my practice picked up. Then I saw that it was not possible to juggle both, then decided to focus on my practice.
Yeah. All right. So you taught part-time. You're also running your own practice while
Precisely.
teaching?
Yes.
Okay. Then in 2019, there's an indication here that you taught law at the Northwest University.
Yes, I got another opportunity to teach at Northwest University. And
what happened to your practice then?
By then my practice was pretty stable. I mean, as you can see, it was almost, 20 years later. So I had candidate attorneys, PAs, and it was pretty vibrant. So I could afford to go and teach and also take care of my practice. But I taught on part-time basis.
Okay, that's what you are doing to date.
Which is what?
That's what you are doing as we speak.
No.
Not any longer?
Yeah, as soon as I got the opportunity to act, I felt that I had too much on my plate and needed to narrow down my scope and focus. So I stopped lecturing and focused on practice and acting.
Okay. What kind of practice do you run, if I may ask? What kind of work do you do?
I run what I call black law. You see, I come from the old school. A number of judges, some in the SCA, some in the Concord, practice with me. We're all practitioners. And the only form of practice that was open to us during those dark days of apartheid was basically criminal work, MVA, divorce work, that type of work. And it didn't help that I was in Soweto. I didn't want to go out of Soweto because I wanted to serve my people. And that's where actually my heart is. I wish one day there could be a high court in Soweto and I would be the first one to stay to work there. But yeah, so it was black law, that type of work, not your complicated stuff like your, I see Councillor Whiteover looks the other way, Commissioner, your administrative law. It's only now that these fields are opening up to the young ones. Our kids have these opportunities, I must be honest, and the sky is not the limit. But for me, that was the type of law that I was exposed to.
Well, it's still the type of law that's available to most black practitioners, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're correct. But I mean, I blame to a large extent our government there's a lot that they can do. Just as a side issue, take the issue of Baja. I don't understand why Baja is not referred to as Batu Beli. Why is given a descriptive kind of language? We should use our own languages to try and put our people involved in law. You know, unfortunately, we lack creativity. And if you lack creativity, then black lawyers will suffer. Because if you look at Baja, which is of paramount importance, it's white, it's European. We've got our own concepts in the township which are not being included in the whole legal system. For instance, we have something that is called umhobolo, ubali hobi. Every black person who comes from the township will tell you that some of the decisions of administrators are motivated by that. But you will not find it in Baja. Instead, you will have this concept of bias, capricious, irrationality. What about us? Include us, put us also there. I think we've done well in terms of changing faces in the judiciary, but we've not done well in terms of changing the concepts. Even in the Concord, I mean, you only see concepts such as Kumalo test. That's how far they go. You know, you don't get a concept that is black-based, that is based in our people and understands the concept of our people. And that is my, you know, the thing that is the bane of my existence, that we don't seem to appreciate that we have two parallel systems. We have the European system and we have our own system. I have an advantage because I've worked in Soweto all my life. I can tell you now, some of our people's lives are not taken care of. They do not interact with the law. Take, for instance, Ubusangoma. You know, people get injured there. People get serious incisions, but they can't sue the state. But if they go to the hospital where they interact with white law, they're able to sue the state. We must be creative. We must find ways and means of changing the law to apply to us as black people. And when I say, I hope one day there will be a high court in Soweto, I mean it. Soweto has more than 2 million people. That's bigger than Northern Cape. That's bigger than Swaziland. And it's mostly populated by previously disadvantaged people. You know, I mean, you have Indians there in Lenasia. You have Coloureds in El Dorado Park, in, what's the other township? There's other township. Then you have blacks, all blacks you can think about. I mean, from Zulu, Xhosa, Pedi, Shangaan, Venda. And you must understand, they all come from these provinces we're talking about. I'm sorry, I'm just being long-winded. I'm just venting. But it's what I always wanted to say. Let me say it, and people, let's hear it, because I feel that we're being neglected. We're not taken on board. The whole issue of language. I mean, I've been listening to these proceedings. It's a crying shame that in this day and age, black people, and you can see it's only black candidates who are questioned about the question of language. You know, those who are privileged, they're really laughing at us and saying, we're now beating them with failure to understand. It's our kids. I think I must take my child to the UK, and she will definitely fit nicely here. Because if my child comes from Zola and goes to the school that I went to, which is Pesesco, which is opposite Mandela's house, not far from Bishop Tutu's house, adjacent to Kizam Taung's house, during those days along Vilagazi Street, those people are not catered for. The advocates that I saw appearing in court as a judge, an acting judge, I can tell you now, some of the courts were white. Lily white. I mean, my first acting stint, I was blown out of my mind and said, what's happening here? Because remember, I'm from the RAF, you asked me what I do. I'm from doing RAF, Road Accident Fund Matters. And that's where you'd see a lot of change. You'll see black, white, colored Indian attorneys. But since that stopped, then you have unopposed matters. You go to an opposed matter, as it happened in one case when I did my first acting stint. I was really wet behind the ears. So I relied on my registrar, and she said, Mr. Judge, we're going to call all the matters at once. And you can imagine I had 14 matters on that day. So you multiply that by 2, that's almost 28. My maths has not always been good, hence I'm a lawyer. So you have 28 litigants, because it's opposed motion. I can tell you, of the 28 litigants, very few were black. And I was taken aback. I was really, really shocked. And I was asking myself, where do they think these people will get all this experience if we don't have black practitioners here?
We hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm just venting, but I need to mention this so that
you are quite passionate about these issues.
Whether I get elected or not, but at least I would have told the truth, because one of the qualities of a judge is that you must tell the truth. So it's the truth that I'm telling, and that's what's happening on the ground if you're not aware.
Well, you've had occasion to act as a judge.
Precisely.
For how long?
It's 34 weeks now, because I was
34 weeks.
acting last week in the Zimbabwe exemption permit matter, ZEP.
And I noticed in your application form that you have been sitting as a small claims court commissioner for
I
a
love
decade.
that. I'm even wearing the tie from the small claims court, because I feel that's where Section 34 comes alive. You see people being assisted, you see people, and the whole question of language just becomes so pronounced, because when people speak in their own languages, they're able to argue their issues. It's a joy to be in those courts, and I love that. I've done that for a long time. It was not for this purpose. In fact, I wouldn't be here had it not been for Judge Matopo. I must say, I didn't see myself as a judge. It's Judge Matopo who kept on persuading me, and finally, even now, I've been relying heavily on him. So I did that because I love it, because it's payback time, and I love my community. I really, really love my community. I wish we could all be like that.
No, that's not a bad thing at all. What I wanted to ask is whether you've had an opportunity during your acting stint as a judge to infuse this philosophy from the grassroots that you speak so passionately about.
To infuse where? Maybe I missed you.
In a matter you had and in a judgment you wrote.
No, I haven't
And
had...
went beyond the Kumalo test.
Remember, yes, no, I hear you. They say in Latin, festin lente. You must move very carefully when you start off. You can't just ruffle feathers from the word go. But the truth of the matter, I haven't had the occasion where I got a judgment where I could really talk about what's happening in the country, which is sad.
Maybe if you are permanently appointed, you will get that chance.
Well, we don't know.
Let's see what happens.
We don't know. I still wish that they could build a court in Soweto, because the court that we have there is horrible.
Well, the deputy minister is here and he hears you, so maybe.
I hope she's hearing me, because truth be told,
it's a he.
It's a he. I don't know.
That gentleman over there.
I apologize. Is that the sincere apologies? Sincere apologies. But these days people are binary, so you never know. But the point I'm making, Deputy Minister, is that if you go to Protea Court, which services a huge population of black people, it's a crying shame. The only proper structure, it's the one that was built during apartheid. That's when I was practicing. Now I don't want to practice there because our government has built zozos. They've built shacks. You find a magistrate sitting in a zozo. And not that funds are not there. Just a stone throw away in Poisons, a state-of-the-art court was built. Why couldn't they have built that court in Soweto to service our people? I really don't understand it. What's wrong with us?
Well, he's heard you. No, you may not, Minister. All right, but very briefly.
The problem with Soweto has been getting land to build a new court.
That can't be the problem, Minister. That's really passing the buck. There's so much piece of land. In fact, developers are developing
That's
Soweto.
exactly what I feared would
Yes.
happen, and I'll put a stop to it right
Let's
now.
not go into that, but we can have this discussion outside. But there is so much land. It's growing. It's going towards
DCJ, could I stop this?
Yes.
This,
JP
some of us are very
I'm-
involved in that process that this candidate won't know.
Yes.
All right. Well, JP
No.
Mlambo, I'm going to hand the candidate over to you now
Sorry,
to put
JP.
your questions.
Thank you very much, DCJ. Yes, I mean, we are aware of the situation in Soweto. The CJ is aware. We are very involved. Very involved. Yes, there's a lot of land. There's a lot of land.
Yes, it's not only that.
My first question.
All right,
my
sorry.
first question to
Okay,
you.
sorry about that, JP.
My first question to you is: you're very passionate about being in Soweto, hence your practice stayed there.
Precisely.
That's commendable. You've acted for the spreadsheet I circulated was 31 weeks, but you correct that has 3 more weeks that's been added because of the work you had
It's
to
a
do
week.
this
It's a
term.
week. It's
Yeah.
a week. Yes.
So is it 32 weeks? I heard you mention 34 weeks.
I was in court for 4 days. So you can add 4 days.
Okay, that's a week.
Yes.
Now, in your acting stints, the only area you've not touched is the area of special civil trials and criminal trials.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Precisely.
Right. How did you find that week when you did agent court?
Agent court was quite a revelation. And the problem with agent court is the failure. Sometimes it's not the failure, it's that candidates do not want to understand Rule 612B. Rule 612B just asks for 2 things. 1, you must show reasons why your matter is agent. Explicit circumstances must be stated why the matter is agent. The second one, it's lack of substantial redress at a hearing in due course. Now, if you fail to give reasons for lack of substantial redress or at a hearing in due course, how can you get an agent application approved? Because agency looks at the form and looks at the service. You have your Luna Mabel judgment, which gives you the gradation, basically, of what you should do. And you have your Republicae case, which talks about service. People do not do that.
You're giving ammunition to that full court there when you mention those.
Yeah, no, I know. Look, at the end of the day.
So what I want to ask you is, in that week, how
Yes.
many matters did you have? There were 2 of you, is it?
Yes, there were
But
2 of
you
us.
individually, how many matters did you have?
We had 34 matters in that week.
Okay.
So we split them between us, and I had.
Was that a recess agent duty allocation or a normal term
No,
allocation?
it was a normal term, JP.
It was a light week, I can tell you that.
Well,
The average number is 60.
Yes.
for
But
2 judges.
yeah, I might as well add that I harken back to the days when I used to do after hours bail application during the agent matter, because I had one matter which was called in the evening.
Yeah. Now, you were allocated one special motion,
Yes,
but the one you're mentioning now, the ZEP matter, is the second one.
yes,
But that's a full court matter.
yes.
The one that's reflected here, you sat alone.
Yes.
Am I correct?
100%.
How long did it take you to produce that judgment?
It was less than 2 months.
Right. And did you find it challenging?
Law is not difficult as long as you understand the rules.
Yeah.
I'm talking now as a lecturer. But once you understand the rules and you understand the facts, so I understood the facts. In fact, I tried to put the parties at ease by preparing a small spreadsheet and read out of it what the issues were all about. Because sometimes you have these counsels, senior counsels, let's not mention names, who think you know absolutely nothing. So yes, I found it quite a joy to deal with. Maybe it was because it was dealing with Rule 12.
Yes. Okay. Now, I've been telling other candidates who are coming here that as JP, I want this commission to recommend candidates who will hit the ground running,
Yes,
who will not be a burden to other judges. That is, who will make me think twice before I allocate work to them. You understand what I'm trying to say? And I've articulated it as follows, loose language. Need hard workers, someone who's a proven hard worker, someone who is technically competent in terms of the work we have to do, and someone who's conceptually up to standard. You've been busy talking to us this afternoon about Soweto, the law, the Africanization
Yes.
of the law, but someone who's there, conceptual level, should be at the right place. You can't be given a matter in one area of the law and you start applying wrong tests. If you understand what I mean.
I fully sorry about that.
So the GCB has made comments against you. You are aware of those comments.
I saw the comments.
And I just want you, and I don't want you to tell a story because I see
No, I won't.
you get carried away.
Yes,
Don't.
all right. No, I got carried away because of Soweto. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, they say if we as a commission think it's not necessary to strive for the highest standards, that's the message we will be sending if we recommend you for appointment. You've seen that.
No, I saw that.
And they base their criticism on how you handled a number of cases. And one of them is where they say you applied an incorrect test in a leave to appeal application. You saw that.
Yes.
So it's a three-pronged question. Is there validity in this criticism? Looking at how you've performed as an acting judge and your practice of more than 20 years, lecturing as well, do you think you have what it takes to be permanent in the division? And do you think we should recommend you?
JP, let me start with the first criticism of applying the wrong test. Indeed, that's true. But it was, if you remember, I started acting before I even went for sergeant training because it was during the days of COVID. In fact, I felt that we were guinea pigs because it was dangerous during those days. But then subsequent to that, I went for the sergeant training. And if you look at my leave to appeal now, I think I sent the latest one. It captures the law. Your section 17, 1A, Roman figure I, the appeal would instead of might. It captures that, and it talks about the cases which are around that, like your Tina Hussein case. So I have definitely improved.
Okay.
Hence I did not even include it in my pack Because even the other
You
criticism.
did not include the case they're commenting on.
Yes, all the cases they're commenting on are not included in my pack. They're actually my very first case.
Okay.
All right.
What's your response to the other points I made in the same statement?
I am ready, JP. I am a hard worker, that you can see. I've not had a reserve judgment. If you look at all my judgments are delivered within less than 2 months at times. And I'm always working hard. So I don't know why I wouldn't feel that I'm ready for this job.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've handed down some, I think I've listed the number, 47 judgments in total. That's what the list tells me.
All right.
Now, it doesn't appear that in any of those matters you took an unduly long time to hand down those judgments. There may be one or two where you took more than 3 months.
No, there's none.
There's none.
There's none. I wouldn't do that because if there's one thing that lecturing teaches you is to discipline yourself
Yes.
and work hard. That's one quality I have, JP, hard
Yes.
work.
So you admit the comment regarding that application for leave to appeal,
Precisely.
wrong application of the test.
100%.
That one you admit, but
That
you
one I
say
admit.
that was early days.
100%. You can look at it. It was actually a leave to appeal the matter that they comment on. It was an application for liquidation. And the question there was the Baden-Horst principle. I thought that the dispute was, the indebtedness was disputed on reasonable and on bona fide and reasonable grounds. That was the conclusion I came up with.
Yeah.
But obviously, the litigants thought otherwise. But I can say there was no prejudice to the litigants because I granted them leave to appeal.
Yeah.
And the matter was appealed successfully.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I must commend you for the work you've done in Soweto, the establishment of the Small Claims Court that's bringing access to justice to the people there, and your continued involvement with that project. And I mean, by keeping your practice in the township, it speaks volumes. We all want to gravitate to the urban areas.
No, I don't.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you, DCJ. I've got no further questions.
Thank you, JP. MEC, you covered.
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks.
Do you have questions, commissioners? Commissioner Malem?
Thank you very much, DCJ. I'm really covered, and I like the passion about the Africanization of the law, and that there should be the High Court in Soweto, and that the JP actually clarified that it is not correct that there is no land in Soweto for such a development. I just want to pick up your brain on customary law, especially that you speak very passionately, and I accept the responsibility as well. That will have a law passed by us now and not give it an African name, not even the law in content, just a name, a simple thing as a name. We had failed to do that from 1994 until now,
It's a shame.
to just name a law using an African language. So I'm happy that the speaker is here and can hear speaker. Since 1994, a law, just to name it with the African name. Not content, just a name. We haven't done that. So I accept that, but your take on the customary law, what do you think of it?
Commissioner Malema, there's two things. Yes, customary law is important, but it's mostly located. You must distinguish between what I said and customary law. Mostly it's located in the rural areas, and we do practice customary law in the township. When we pay for malobola, when you stabisa mahadi, all those things. But here I'm talking more substantive matters, more than customary law, because they like to relegate everything to customary law that is black. No, we are bigger than that. Like the example I'm talking to you about, Ehopi, it's not customary law. It's someone who has umhobolo, who wants everything to himself. Why can't you take that person on review on that basis? And a black person will be better positioned to argue that point. And you'll be able to employ a black counsel to argue that point better than a white counsel. Because now the system favors white people, we have to be honest. Now, if I'm going to argue bias, it's a difficult concept as a black person to appreciate. But if I'm going to argue Ihopi, umhobolo, it's closer to me. I know what umhobolo is all about. It includes bias, it includes jealousy, it includes a lot of concepts, but you find it in the township. And when I say in the township, especially so it's a representative of, it's a microcosm of South Africa, man.
No, thank you very much, DCJ. Even customary law is not given African name, yet it's for us black people.
Yeah, that was a nice parting shot, Commissioner Malem.
Follow up, DCJ.
Oh, sorry. Prof, is that you?
Yes, it's me. I just want to follow up on this point.
Ask your follow-up question.
No, thank you. Good afternoon, Advocate.
I'm an attorney,
Oh,
or
good
better, a
afternoon. How
legal
are you?
practitioner.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to follow up on the issue that was raised by Commissioner Malema.
Yes.
No, not Commissioner. Your answer to the question that Commissioner Malema asked in relation to the race of the person who should do a particular matter. I just want to know if we achieve that and say perhaps maybe a black candidate or a black practitioner can be able to argue a customary law matter a little bit more efficiently. Will we not be creating a challenge where we will be met with resistance on other areas of law, where somebody can equally come and say, but we need to make sure that we employ white lawyers to actually argue issues such as tax and competition law, and then they will make reference to the fact that already black counsel are arguing customary law matters. Would we not be creating a bigger problem while we are trying to solve this important problem? Thank you very much.
Thanks for that question, Commissioner. It makes me laugh because the problem already exists. The white advocates are the ones who are arguing these matters. Black advocates are not arguing any matter. So what problem are you trying to solve? I mean, I can tell you now, from what I've seen, most of the junior counsel that are briefed are our kids who've gone to white schools. Advocates who are coming from the township will never get briefs or be juniors to big matters. So I don't think you'll be solving a problem if you don't acknowledge that there's a problem. Firstly, you must acknowledge that, you see, I'm not much of a horticulturalist, but if you have a flower planted in a garden and it doesn't grow, you don't blame the flower. You blame the soil, the garden. That's where the problem is. Our garden is not proper. So it's a combination of things. It's not just customary law being argued by specific people, but also location. If you're going to locate a court in Soweto, for instance, you're going to have a Soweto GCB. That GCB will immediately be populated by our people. We'll also empower with knowledge now, proper knowledge, our people. So I don't understand the question, and I don't think it comes from the correct premises. I'm not saying white people don't have a role to play. Please don't misunderstand me. But I'm saying we are left far behind as black people. We are forced to live to a standard that's not ours. That's not right. We must meet each other halfway.
The candidate has finished answering your question. Do you have another one?
No,
Or it
no,
was a follow-up.
I'm-
No, it was a follow-up.
It was a follow-up, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, DCJ.
Okay. Any, or it was your turn, Commissioner Nyambi.
Thank you, TCJ. Afternoon, Mr. Motha.
Afternoon, Commissioner Nyembe.
No, let me join also and commend you for having your practice in a township. That's where the historically disadvantaged people are staying in a meaningful percentage, as you have outlined it. JP has asked you about the GCP comment. I'll ask you only one question. Is the one of Nadel in response to the JSC questionnaire,
Yes.
where you said this sweet victory won on technicality, where 2 accused were caught and handed with 1 million and worth of counterfeit money.
Yes.
They are saying the response creates the impression that the candidate views the law as something that can and should be manipulated, not as a means of justice. So your comment on that?
I just want to juxtapose both the GCB's comment and LSSA's comment. GCB says, I write badly. LSSA says, my judgments are, what's the language? Erudite. Meaning, I was shocked. I never thought my judgments were erudite. But yes, that's not number one. Now, with as far as the sweet victory, I think it's a complete misunderstanding. And it must be understood in this context. As I've already explained, I grew up in the township, my practice is in the township. The 2 accused I was representing were people I grew up with. In fact, accused number 2 stayed 3 houses from my house. His father was a pastor, a prophet known in the area. Their case was the talk of the town, talk of the street. I was 1 year in practice when this happened. The court of public opinion had already ruled us out. We were as good as dead. And during those days, unfortunately, I will have to take you back. During those days, it was just at the end of apartheid. So you know the rural areas were mostly populated by what we used to call volgramte magistrates. And this was in Port Gietersrus. It was guaranteed we're not coming back. And the weight on my shoulders was not light. And they said because of money, I think there's that comment that because of money I would sell my soul or something like that. But there was no money there. The reason why they picked on me is because they didn't have money. So I was not making money. So when we won that case, in fact, let me just add this. On our first appearance, the magistrate in court called me and said, "Is Jia Procurier, prove that you are a lawyer." And we had 2 lawyers. The other one was not asked. I was asked because I was from Soweto and obviously because also I was young. Now that you are asked in front of the accused, what confidence would they have? In fact, up to this very day, we talk about that case. So when we won the case, I still believe we won it on prayers. When we won the case, it was celebration. That case built me. That's why I think about it. That case brought a lot of cases to my office because the people in the township started saying, yeah, no, this guy, he can handle criminal cases. No, we don't have to go and brief so and so. No, we can try him out. So that's why that case was important to me and I mentioned it. Not because I was taking first one on the law, or I was trying to be smart. No, I know too well about that.
No, thanks for clarifying it, and context is everything. I hope Nadel is listening and it's more than clarified. Thank you. Thank you, DCJ.
Thank you, Commissioner Nyambi. Any more questions?
Yes, I
colleagues?
do want to
Commissioner
ask,
Nyambi?
I think Commissioner Pillay was probably ahead of me. All right, thank
Okay.
you. Yes. Good afternoon, Judge, actually. I appeared before you 2 weeks ago. So I called you Judge then. I think I should continue calling you Judge.
I had hoped we wouldn't talk today.
No, what I'm worried about is to make sure that you don't say one thing and do the other.
Yes.
You don't come here and say to us, I'm all for black people, but your judgments reflect something else. So I want to take you to 2 of those judgments.
Yes.
So let's start with the judgment of Stoch.
Oh, Stoch, yes.
Yeah, which is an August 2022 judgment. And at paragraph 35 of that judgment, this is a statement that got me worried.
On what page?
At page 73 or page 70. 73 at the bottom, 70 at the top.
70 at the
Yeah, and it's
bottom.
paragraph 35 of the judgment.
Yes.
Yes, and these 2 lines towards the bottom of that paragraph where you say, if pi does not apply to an eviction from a cottage used for holiday purposes, it certainly cannot apply to an eviction from a holiday home's garage. Now, I don't understand the statement, what it means, because if a person is in a garage that is located in a holiday home, and ordinarily those would be black people, but you would then deny them the protections of pi. Can you explain yourself?
Context is everything again. This was not that kind of a case. We're dealing with multi-billionaires. In fact, if you read the judgment. So the garage was not about occupying it. It was parking cars.
Yes, no, I'm talking about the general statement.
Well, generally, yes,
Yes.
I agree with you. I will agree with, but this was area-specific, context-driven.
Yes, no, that's the point I'm making, is that when you make a statement like this in a judgment, which says, if pi does not apply to an eviction from a cottage used for holiday purposes, it certainly cannot apply to an eviction from a holiday home's garage. So you're saying that the statement should not be read generally, it should be read narrowly.
It says, yes, I agree with that.
Yes.
But it's also, there's a qualification there that says holiday home garage.
Yes, no, I understand that.
Yes.
But my problem with it is that the statement is phrased in a very generic way that impacts on black people who can use a garage, whether on a temporary basis or on a semi-temporary basis. But that's really the concern, is whether or not the phrase could have been formulated narrowly.
I take the criticism.
Now, let's go to another judgment that also worries me about your statements that you
Okay.
are for black people, but when you look at your judgments, I get worried. It's the Motibe and Seleka judgment.
Yes.
Now, this is where
That's on page?
the page is 90 at the top, 93 at the bottom. Now, this is where you declared a black person a delinquent director,
Yes.
and the basis for that declaration is set out at paragraph 42, where you say, you first set out the test in Giwala,
Yes.
and then when you apply it, you say in paragraph 42, in Kasu, the first respondent failed to utilize his position as a director for the benefit of the company. He did not have regard to his fiduciary duties by offering a salary of 66,000 rands to the fifth respondent without any resolution and agreement between the members of the board. Now, my own sense was that it's a pretty radical order to declare a person. And here you don't apply any compassion, any Ubuntu, nothing. In fact, you just apply the statute And then the way you apply it seems to be pretty radical for a declaration of delinquency. And the reasoning that you give seems to be very, very thin. So I've got two concerns with this judgment. One is your professed protection of black people under the law is not reflected in your judgments. In fact, your judgments show a level of conservatism. And secondly, it's quite drastic what you did here. So I want to put those to you and then get your comment.
I think, Commissioner, you're completely wrong.
Yes.
If you read the entire judgment, it's
Yes.
a black woman who is
Yes.
being disadvantaged by a black male in this case.
Yes.
In fact, the application was brought by a black woman.
Yes.
If you read what he had done,
Yes.
I'll just mention the facts.
Yes.
This was an
Well,
opportunity
there is-
given. This was an opportunity given to black people to run a multi-millionaire business, and what he did, he shouldered the black woman because it was given on understand that both of them should run the business.
Yes.
He shouldered the black woman and employed another man
Yes.
without consulting, without any form of board meeting, and offered that person 66,000, and they started to be in cahoot,
Yes.
fighting to make sure that they kicked out this lady. So if you read the judgment, that's not just I think if you take that one out of context, it will give a wrong impression.
Yes. All right.
But
again,
if you read all of it, you'll realize there's a lot. I can read from the judgment some of the things that he did, which will also worry you.
Yes. No, I think the only principal point I'm making to you is this. The professed statements that every time you approach a case, you do it from the perspective of protecting black people. I just don't see it in any of the judgments you've written.
I never said that.
Oh, I see.
I
Okay.
never said that.
No, then it was
No.
entirely my error.
I never said that. It's not my modus operandi to protect black people. And you must understand, Commissioner Ngwedu, I'm not putting a show. That's who I am. I love my people.
Yes.
I live with my people.
Yes.
I have two houses in Soweto. So it's not a show.
Yes, no,
That's
then I
who I am.
misunderstood your statement because I just wanted to go
No,
through
you misunderstood me.
Yes, I wanted to go through the judgments to see where exactly in practice have you protected these black people. And it seems that actually what you've done, you've just applied the law like any ordinary judge would do in any circumstances. And that's
Yes.
not a criticism.
Thank
That's
you.
just to, yeah. Then the other thing I wanted to ask you, and it's a point you didn't debate fully with Commissioner Malema, and because you said you are not talking about customary law, but I want to talk about customary law.
Okay.
Yes. To understand your grasp of customary law. Yes. Now, I've made an example to several candidates that have come before us, which is where there is a contested rule of custom, how does a judge resolve the contested rule of custom?
Yeah,
Under Alexco and Maelane.
yeah, I think there's another case, Mamidwa, which looks at the contested rule of custom. If you can look at that case, it captures nicely that you look at the development also of custom, and it must always comply with the Constitution. Your development of custom must always, thanks.
We were actually warned that this would happen. It's going to take about 5 minutes to resolve.